Greetings duelists, and welcome to another video. So today we're going to talk about Darklords. This is another iconic theme that we had in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Very similar to Archfiends, Darklords have different category of monsters, and they have been evolving over time to do just very different things from what they were intended at the beginning. But at the same time, they kept a very similar tune to what the deck's purpose was supposed to entail. One of the first Darklord monsters that we ever had in the game was Darklord Superbia, which, fun fact, this was a Shonen Jump promo for the longest time until we actually had it in the TCG. And prior to that, there were very finite strategies you could use with Superbia, but they were actually pretty cool. There was a really cool combo turbo deck that just involved like other fairy monsters. You played like Allure of Darkness, Trade In, like a bunch of draw cards, and you just turbo out your entire deck. And Superbia was involved because you just reborn Superbia and then use Superbia to reborn another fairy, and go on so on and so forth. A little bit later than that, we did get Desire, Asmodeus, and Ede, which they're not really that good. Like Asmodeus can summon tokens, while this one just pierces a monster if it was specifically summoned from the graveyard, so it's technically a vanilla. And this one cannot even be special summoned, but you can tribute a fairy. You can lose a 1,000 attack to send a monster to the graveyard, and you can summon this by tributing just one fairy type monster. That's what I wanted to say. Back in its day, these cards were great for what they were doing because the meta game was actually very, very slow, to the point where these cards actually did something. Now we're at a point in the game where these cards are way too slow for what the game is supposed to do. We'll talk about Ukobak in a moment, but before talking about Ukobak, let's talk about the other category of Darklords. A couple of years later, I think it was on 2016 or I think it was on 2018, if I'm not mistaken. We got something that we got what I like to call the Morningstar Darklords, or the Payment Darklords. These are Darklord monsters that revolved around these specific spell cards and trap cards, and they use those spell and trap cards as if it was their own effects. And what's really cool about them is that they are all quick effects. So imagine you just activating all these spells and traps, and then you just use these Darklords to use these cards again. And these spell and traps are not that bad. Like, this is Rhoda for Darklords, this is Monster Reborn for Darklords, this takes an opponent's monster, this pops an opponent's card, this reborns two Darklords, this fusion summons a Darklord or a Dark Fusion monster, and we'll talk about that in a moment. This is a negate, basically it's like an imperm, but you gain life. You're probably wondering, why are these forbidden spells here? We'll talk about them in a moment too. Also, fun fact, all these trap cards, they have a payment. They have a very strong payment for their effects. So just having a Darklord monster copy the trap means you can bypass the payment to use their effects. There's so much to cover when it comes to all these Darklords, so I'm not gonna cover all their individual effects. I will cover like a few important ones, like for example, this one, this one can be special summoned by just discarding a couple of cards. which is important because not many Darklords can special summon themselves. This can draw cards by discarding it alongside another Darklord, and this goes back to the old Superbia strategy, that like super turbo strategy that you just draw a billion cards. Like it just is another draw card. This one can protect Darklords from destruction. Hand Ducks can recover Darklord cards from the graveyard. Nurgle gives piercing for all your Darklords. Morningstar is like a very different monster compared to the other 5, but he is like one of the linchpins of the deck. Essentially, the way Morningstar works is he cannot be special summoned, but when you tribute summon, you can special summon a lot of Darklords depending on the amount of cards your opponent controls. So essentially this card is meant for you to go second. Yeah, so we're going back to Uprising. So this is a fusion trap that allows you to fusion for dark monsters, but it's made more with Darklords because you can summon the first Darklord with it. And the first Darklord basically is a fusion that you want to use with Morningstar, because if you use Morningstar for it, you can pop all your cards your opponent controls, and very different from the other ones, you can pay 1,000 life points to special summon a fairy type monster from your hand or graveyard in defense. Any fairy, by the way. Like, I'm staring at the Light Barrier statue, for example. And this is a quick effect, so let's not ignore that. Alright. Now you have the level 4 Darklords, and yes, Condemn Witch is technically a Darklord, and you'll understand why after a bit. Capricious allows you to extra tribute summon for a Darklord. Indulged allows you to add a Darklord and special summon a Darklord to your opponent's side of the field. Which is gonna be important for future cards that you'll see later on. So Condemn Wish is not a Darklord by name, but she can add a forbidden quick play spell to your hand upon summon. You're probably adding forbidden droplets more than any other card. This is like the best one. But you know, there is a world where you can play the other ones. Forbidden Chalice is also really good. Specifically in this format, in Justice Hunters format, this card is actually really good. Because this card is better than Imperm on some situations. Especially since your opponent is like, especially since we're having a lot of turn 0 plays on like our turn. But Droplets is pretty much always gonna be like the best one. But Condemn Witch can also summon a level 4 fairy monster from your deck on your opponent's turn. So you can summon either Capricious or Indulged. And then you have the Condemned Darklord, which is a Link 2 monster that requires 2 fairies. You can tribute summon fairy monster that requires 2 tributes by banishing monsters from your graveyard, and it is tributed as a tribute summon. This detail is important because this means that this triggers Morningstar. This can also add you a Darklord monster from your deck, or send it to the graveyard by discarding a card, which means you can pretty much like add Naston to special summon itself, for example, or add Capricious and Indulged. You'll see later on that there are other plays that you can do with this, but more so, you're probably just gonna summon Morningstar. Let's go back to Ukobak. So Ukobak got revealed or got released late after the payment Darklords, and it has a very simple effect. You just send a Darklord card, take note, it can send any Darklord card, so it can send spell and traps, which is ideal for your other Darklords and their payment effects. Now that we're caught up and we got a little history of Darklords, let's look at the new Darklords that we're getting. So the first Darklord that we get is Darklord Djehuty, which, if you noticed, is level 4, so you can summon it with Condemned Wish. So Darklord Djehuty reads, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one Darklord monster from your deck in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except fairy type monsters. Fair lock, all the Darklords are fairies. If you control a Dark Fairy Fusion monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Darklord card or one forbidden quick play spell in your graveyard added to your hand. You can only use this effect of Djehuty once per turn. So the first thing we've noticed about this card is this can summon any Darklord. It doesn't matter what level of the Darklord it is. Obviously, you cannot summon Morningstar and you cannot summon Desire because they specifically have to. They specifically cannot be special summoned. But you can summon Asmodeus. Asmodeus cannot be special summoned from. Let's read it. Oh, never mind. It cannot be special summoned from the deck, so you cannot special Asmodeus either. So Asmodeus, Desire, Morningstar are the only cards you cannot summon with Djehuty. You can summon everything else. You can even special summon Superbia. Like, imagine just summoning Djehuty into Superbia, and Superbia into Asmodeus, or Superbia into, like, any of these. And just use any of these to use their payment effect in the graveyard. And take note, this is searchable by banishment, and this is recurable by contact. So this card can just snowball advantage against your opponent really, really quickly. It can quickly just spam the board. Like, imagine, for example, you It Shell, dumping Djehuty, and then you go, like, contact, reborn Djehuty to just summon, like, any of these, and then use, like, Teska, for example, to shuffle back contact, and then you summon back Eggshell. All of a sudden, you just have 3 free monsters. And that's not even talking about Eggshell's effects to just pay and activate another Darklord card. And even though these Darklord cards are hard ones per turn to activate, these Darklords, like, can just copy their effect, and it's like you're playing extra copies of those spell and trap cards. So, really excellent card. Also, this banishing itself to just recover one of your forbidden spells is also really good. Like, it's just a bonus effect. You really didn't need that effect on it. But again, if you have first of the Darklords, you can just banish this, add one of these back, and first of the Darklord requires 3 Dark Fairy monsters, which again is super easy to do when you summon a monster that just summons another Darklord, which can just recur you another Darklord. Really good card. Now we have Darklord Gulgalta. This card reads, if this card is special summoned, you can special summon 2 Darklord tokens, level 6/0/0. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of your turn except fairy monsters. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Darklord card or a forbidden quick play spell from your deck to your hand except Gulgalta. You can only use this effect of Gulgalta once per turn. This card is also really good. So the first thing we notice is this summons 2 Darklord tokens. You can fusion with these tokens, and you can use these tokens to summon Condemned Darklord. So imagine going Djehuty into Gulgalta Gulgalta, make 2 tokens. You link those 2 tokens, summon Condemned Darklord. Like, really strong. Or you link away the Gulgalta for the Condemned Darklord, and you use Gulgalta to add Forbidden Droplet. Or, take note, this adds a Darklord card. So this can add the Banishment, this can add the Contact. Like, this is just a really good card. You can pick this with Eggshell, and that turns Eggshell into a +1 too. Like, imagine just like using Eggshell, dumping Gulgalta, you draw 2, use Gulgalta's effect, add Banishment, Banishment to add Djehuty, Djehuty to summon the other ones, and then the other ones you can like use the Banishment effect to just add another Darklord. All of a sudden, with these 2 cards alone, already made this archetype ridiculously fast. Which is something this deck really needed. Darklords were inherently very, very slow as an archetype and as a strategy. The consistency of the archetype was there, but these cards were just very, very slow at what they wanted to do. Djehuty and Gulgalta already fixed that. And we're still missing one other card. We're still missing a few other cards. Don't worry. It gets even better. Now we have Darklord Pleasure. So this is a normal spell card. This one reads, you can fusion summon 1 type fairy monster from your extra deck by banishing its materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard. And if you do, it gains 1,000 attack. If summoning a Darklord monster this way, you can also use Darklord monsters your opponent controls as material. You can only activate 1 Darklord Pleasure per turn. The reason this card can use your opponent's monsters is because of Indulged Darkworld, or Darklord. Indulged Darklord can add you a Darklord, but it also sends you a Darklord. So depending on how your hand looks, Darklord essentially could become a real starter. Let's say, for example, you have Darklord like Indulged and Gulgalta, or you can use Darklord, you can use Indulged to summon Gulgalta to your opponent's side of the field. And if you have a way to get rid of it, the Gulgalta just adds you another Darklord. And that Darklord, you can use it alongside like Djehuty, or alongside Eggshell, like so on and so forth. This also makes the first of the Darklord a lot easier to summon. Like, we didn't have a Miracle Fusion before this. The best fusion card that we had was Uprising. And in all fairness, Uprising is not a bad card by any means. Like, Darklord Uprising makes it so you could summon the first Darklord on your opponent's turn. But just using Darklord Pleasure to summon the first Darklord, and if, for example, using a Morning Star, this turns the first Darklord into a nuke for your opponent's cards on summon, and this cannot be targeted. Like, depending on what deck you're playing against, this effect could be really strong. Like, I don't know how Jummy can get over this card. Like, for example, like, you cannot cookie this card away, you cannot Jummy Surprise this card away, like, there's non-target pops your cards, like, just very ridiculous. Alright, so it's kind of strange that we're getting a new fusion spell, right? Considering everything that we've done with Darklord in the past. This kind of incentivizes you to play Morningstar because the only Darklord fusion at the moment is the first Darklord. Also we thought. Let's talk about Lucifer. So this is Lucifer, Darklord of the Evening Twilight. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. You can only use all the following effects once per turn. If this card is future summoned, you can set one Darklord spell and one Darklord trap from your deck. Quick effect, pay 1,000 life points, then target one Darklord spell and trap in your graveyard. Apply this effect and upon activation. So this essentially is the same as every other one of these Darklords. However, this is really strong because this can set both a spell and a trap. It can set both. And that already gives you a lot of value. And it doesn't say anything about you not being able to activate the spell cards the turn you set them. So you can set the contact, you can set pleasure, you can set banishment, and just use all of those for this. Also, another really important thing to mention when it comes to pleasure. All these Darklords, including the fusion itself, can shuffle this back into the deck as a quick effect to use this card's effect. So all of a sudden, Pleasure can summon the first Darklord on your opponent's turn by just banishing Morningstar and the other cards. Pretty strong, right? Alright, so the video would be over if we were just talking about Burst Protocol and the support that we got for Darklords. But there's one important detail that I want to bring up. Darklord is going to be better in the TCG than in the OCG. And the reason because of that is because of this and because of these. For those who don't know, these cards debuted in Duelist Advanced. This was indirect support for Fairies and Fiends. Everybody, when they saw Bull, the Light's Dawn, and Mutiny in the Sky, they immediately thought about Burning Abyss and Melodious. But these cards are also really good in Darklord. Like, Lucifer can be summoned by using Dawn, by using Mutiny to shuffle back Dawn. And this card gives protection to your monsters, and this has a lot of attack. However, Mutiny in the Sky can be used to summon Fiends and or Fairies by shuffling the materials from the graveyard. And this card can also recur itself back from the graveyard as well. So all of a sudden, like, let's say for example you're going Eggshell, pitching Morningstar, and you draw 2 cards, and then you get your engine rolling, and in part of all your rotation, you get to Mutiny in the Sky. Mutiny in the Sky is just a free summon for either Lucifer or the first Darklord. And if you use Mutiny in the Sky to summon Lucifer, you can Lucifer into Banishment, Banishment into Djehuty, Djehuty into Gulgalta, link these 2 away into Condemned, and then use Gulgalta to add the Darklord Contact, and then Contact to bring back like the Eggshell. Like, that's a really strong combination that you can do. And it's all possible because of Mutiny in the Sky. So yeah, Darklord for the longest time has been a very, very obscure archetype. It was very, very slow for what it wanted to do. I think these cards from Burst Protocol and these TCG exclusives from Duelist Advanced really, really fixed the archetype. So yeah, really big fan of this. I actually do think that somebody will make this strategy work. Who knows? Maybe we'll see the older Darklords do something as well. For those who don't know, Darklord Nurse Reticule was its own strategy. And even though it was not a tier 1 strategy, it was a strategy that actually did very decent back in the day. Darklord Mary and Darklord Djehuty are dark level 5s. You already know where I'm going with this. Yeah, there's so many real cool creative things you can do with Darklord. We'll just have to wait and see what happens after that. Until then, keep practicing and keep dueling.